As organizations transform and change, so must its people. As organizations strive to be relevant, so must its people. We've been able to see since 1994 this journey, this evolution of the transit industry, as well as the strategies, the processes built into that, and the competency requirements for people within those organizations to be successful. One of the more notable events within the industry that was a wake-up call, most recently, was TNCs, Transit Network Companies. The onset of Uber and Lyft coming into the space of the transit industry. It was a wake-up call. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think the industry was prepared for that or caught off guard? Right. What do you think?
Caught off guard.
Caught off guard. It was caught off guard. But there was a gift underneath that. And the gift was that public sector transit and the vendors of transportation got to see that we can keep the mission of being in charge of and contributing to the greater good. And at the same time, we need to be competitive. So, what happened when TNCs came into the space? Transit organizations had to compete. And they had to compete for riders. They have to now compete for dollars. And they now have to compete for people. So, part of my conversation today is, we're on the brink of another decade. 2020 is right in front of us. We have 10 years ahead. What's that going to look like? What's that crystal ball? What's it going to look like? So let's take a peek into that. Before we do that, though, let's peek back. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right, anybody know what this person is?
Elevator attendant.
Elevator operator. Okay, gas lamp lighter, milk deliverer. And then we have, I had to remember what this was called, switchboard operators, right? Right, Victoria's, yeah, I remember those, right? And do you notice something similar about switchboard operators?
Women.
They're all women. All right, this was not that long ago. Some of these jobs existed 25, 30, 40 years ago. That's not that long. Crazy. Now, fast forward to the present. Let's just come up to today, right now. The jobs that didn't exist even 10 years ago. Look at that. Customer experience officer, social media manager, chief equity officer. You got the chief innovation officer. These jobs did not exist. All right, if you take a look at customer experience officer, right? No, it used to be what? And some of us are still in that zone of kind of customer satisfaction, customer relations.
So the customer service department.
Customer service department. Now the focus is on the journey. We're journey mapping. What is the experience from the first point of contact to the first point of contact to the end point when they get off one of our systems? Okay? It's the customer experience. Innovation offices are popping up all over the place. And you think to yourself, okay, with these jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago, what are the competencies and skills built into that? What does, when an Office of Innovation doesn't exist and now it does, what does that mean then for the types of people they have to hire? They've got to look through a brand new paradigm. Who is going to be that person who is attracted and best suited for innovation? When the industry itself, it's not as if the most innovative people are going to be attracted to transit. So how do you compete for that talent, for open-mindedness? Mechanics, right? Like 15 years ago, they were mechanics, and now we're talking about what? They're technicians. They have to have completely different certifications. And then the upskilling that was talked about earlier. Upskilling those that have been mechanics for 30 years, and they're still working there. And the difficulty that presents. So when we look at the future, how do we predict and prepare for that? So we're not caught off guard again. I mean, the TNCs coming into the space, boy, that just completely shifted the way in which we look at our organizations. So when we, as an organization, consulting and training company, are are looking at where to go in the future, we really had to cite several things. One is our own experience. We've been working in the private and public sector, right? What have we seen? What's evolving? Where is it going? The other thing we have to look at are trends. If you want to know where jobs are going, what's going to be created in the future, we've got to look at the trends. What are the financial trends within the industry? What are the transit trends? What are the customer trends? What are the workforce trends in the industry? So we can start seeing trend lines and then seeing where it might be headed after that. We want to look at what's the future innovation of the industry. And that's already been discussed a little bit in and around the conversation today. Electrification, et cetera, et cetera. Boy, I have like 5 pages of lists of trends we've been collecting over the years. Competency research. But the other thing we got to be paying attention to, the generational shifts. Silver tsunami, that was already discussed by Yvonne. Got to talk about that for a second. Silver tsunami. So back in 2007, I was, as a consulting company, we were taking a look at trend lines and we're noticing that this industry was going to be ahead of the curve in terms of retirements. Retirements were going to occur more quickly because it had a more higher aged population. Transit is still behind. Leadership development is popping up, has been popping up over the last few years, kind of those skills training. But succession planning, talk about high potentials, who's going to be filling that executive turnover that was referred to in this session? You got to subscribe to succession planning. When we, the CEOs are dropping like flies in the transit industry. We're Eno's partner and we conduct these leadership programs across the country, this open enrollment, so we get all these transit organizations coming into these leadership classes that we teach for a week. And there's a senior executive program that we teach, and we ask the question at the beginning of the session every time, raise your hand if in the last 2 years you've had a CEO turnover in your organization. This is anecdotal, but over the last 4 years we've asked that question. 50% of the people in the room say there's a CEO turnover. It's about readiness. It's about making sure you are treating special those people within your organization embedded in there that are your future leaders. 53% of employers surveyed said they are having trouble finding people, hiring, training, skilling, educating. Raise your hand if you can relate to that. In this job market, unemployment 2%, I bet. It's not just the technical skills, but the professional, those soft skills are being more and more called upon. You think, wait, we communicate better than ever because of technology. Not, it's having the opposite effect. We are flooded with information and we're losing sight of connection. We're getting flooded by information, but we're not connecting. And it's causing a lot of issues. Why is it one of the number one requested training topics for us is conflict resolution? Hello? Right? Okay. Okay, so we're just going to move right along here. Okay, so these are the top 5 skills, knowledge, abilities that we distilled it down to based on all that background research that we've done over the years. And I'm going to zoom in on 3 because of time. Okay, so change readiness, which has to do with adaptability and resilience. The second one, business mindset and critical thinking skills. Third one, communication, real communication. Not informing or information dissemination, communication. Collaboration and teamwork across diverse populations, and also creativity and innovation. Okay, so we're going to zoom in. Part of what I'm going to talk about with these top 3 is what is the need individually in terms of the competency, what does that look like, what's the definition? And then I'm going to talk about organizationally. Because the thing is an individual can work on these things to try to get themselves as prepared as possible for the future, to remain relevant and employed. But what really helps is when the organization insists upon it through culture, through putting it on performance evaluations and embedding it in the way in which we do things. That's what's going to make a difference. Both of those things coming together. So here we go. So change readiness. All right. What is it? Okay, adaptability is shifting gears when the context calls for it and responding accordingly. Resilience, the ability to bounce back in the face of adversity, obstacles, disappointments, and failures. This is a huge differentiator, this one down here, toughness, being able to bounce back. People either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, right? You got the growth mindset, goes with the flow, positive outlook. We learn from our difficulties and change and move depending on that. Fixed mindset, it's the way things are. It's just the way things are. Creatures of habit tend to be a little more stubborn, negative outlook. So guess what? When you're hiring people, someone may have the skills that you need and the knowledge that you need. Do they have a growth mindset? One of the things that we look for when we're hiring people in our organization, are they coachable? Do they like to learn? Do they have that learnability? Adaptability comes with learning, that fertile mind, curiosity. Did you talk about the curiosity, Yvonne, right? Curiosity, coachability, business mindset, critical thinking. Definition, connecting what you do to the impact on customers, your clients, and to the bottom line, including an objective analysis and evaluation of an issue or problem to be solved. Very important. This is emerging and becoming at the forefront. Why is that? Because transit is now in a competitive space. So what we find as leaders and public sector organizations that are most successful are the ones who come with a private sector mindset, protecting the taxpayer dollars, not relying upon local, regional, federal funding to pull off what you want to pull off. Having a critical thinking around why we do the things we do and questioning those. So to think about whatever you do in an organization, how can you make sure that you know its value relative to customer impact and the bottom line? Make a business case for ideas that you have, not because it feels good. I'm going to